Hello, this is Nia Holmes, and for the next hour, I'll be reading from the April 7th issue of the front section of the New York Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. What exactly is longevity medicine? The field is ripe with opportunity and optimism. Here's How to Navigate It by Dana G. Smith. Longevity medicine is a confusing brew of noble intentions, cutting edge care, and expensive snake oil. That's partly because there is currently no board certification nor official guidelines for practicing longevity medicine, also called germal medicine, in the United States. Virtually anyone with a medical degree can call themselves a longevity doctor. Witness all the doctor influencer types positioning themselves as expert on social media. And while there are practitioners working in good faith to help people live longer, healthier lives, and scientists pursuing treatments to potentially slow the aging process, there are also clinics and companies marketing anything and everything in the name of longevity. That includes supplements, scans, and infusions that have little evidence to support their use. Longevity medicine requires a lot of scrutiny, says Dr. Bobby Mukamala, the president of the American Medical Association. Are the treatments clinics are offering based on something that's totally justified to work, or is it something that hasn't yet been proven? We asked 9 longevity doctors and other health experts about the most promising ways longevity medicine can help people and where the hype has gotten ahead of the science and may be doing more harm than good. Longevity medicine done right. The experts said the best version can currently accomplish a few things: give people more time and attention than the typical primary care system allows for, offer more personalized care plans, and shift the priority to preventing disease rather than treating it after it appears. I think in the best case scenario, longevity medicine is what really good medicine has always aspired to be, but rarely had the tools to deliver, said Dr. Jordan Schlein, the founder of the concierge medical practice, Private Medical. A typical first step at many longevity clinics is to undergo a comprehensive workup, which often includes things like a fitness assessment, blood panel, genome sequencing, and body scans. Some of these, like a metabolic panel, are standard and regularly used in primary care practices. Others have historically been used in specialty care but are becoming more mainstream, such as tests for lipoprotein and apolipoprotein B, two biomarkers related to cardiovascular health. To the field's proponents, these tests are a way to gather data about a person's risk of various medical conditions and come up with a plan to intervene earlier. When we think about primary care right now, we are still reacting to information that is, quote, after the fact, said Dr. Nicole Sertoin, the chief executive of the Institute for Healthier Living, Abu Dhabi. While there are many longevity clinics based in the United States, much of the work to grow and standardize the field is taking place in other countries. Dr. Serotin cited blood sugar management as an example. In traditional primary care, a doctor likely would not prescribe medication or lifestyle changes until after a person's glucose levels qualified them as pre diabetic. With the longevity medicine approach, a provider might recommend similar treatment if a patient's blood sugar was trending high, even if they didn't reach the pre-diabetes threshold. That means a normal test result often sees an indication of health in traditional care, might not be deemed good enough in a longevity clinic. Dr. Andrea Meyer, the co director of the Academy for Healthy Longevity at the National University of Singapore, said she treats normal blood work as something that she can work with a patient to improve on. We want the normal people to become optimal, Dr. Meyer said, because for people with borderline results in 10 years' time, it's very likely that you are abnormal. So why would we wait? In addition, recommendations about lifestyle behavior that helps you live longer, like eating a balanced diet, exercising regularly, and sleeping 7 to 8 hours a night, may be more bespoke. For example, a practitioner may recommend specific foods to eat or avoid based on a person's continuous glucose monitor readings, instead of generally advising them to limit sugar and eat more fiber. But while a tailored approach could be beneficial in theory, the experts said there is a scant research showing that it leads to better outcomes than following the standard guidelines. Longevity medicine care can cost you and is very rarely covered by insurance. Some clinics in the United States operate on a fee for service model, and tests and treatment must be paid for out of pocket. At other practices, an annual membership can run 5 or 6 figures. Critics say that what people are ultimately paying for is not secret knowledge or markedly better treatments, but more time and attention from a provider. With primary care, they're having to see you in 10 to 15 minutes and get you out of the door, said Jessica Kinrick, a dietitian who has been dubious of longevity medicine. If you pay $100,000 a year to see a longevity doctor, just by having that kind of access, even if they do the exact same thing, is going to be a completely different experience. Dr. James Kirkland, the director of the Center for Advanced Gerotherapeutics at Cedars-Sinai in California, agreed that there isn't much yet in terms of health outcomes a patient can get from a longevity clinic that they can't receive from a good primary care. He added that he is excited about the potential for germal medicine, his preferred term, over the next 5 to 10 years. But right now, he said, there's a lot that's being done that is somewhat risky and is poorly evidence based. Unproven treatment with a veneer of rigor. The lack of standardization in longevity medicine has left a lot of room for false promises and pseudoscience. Clinics have been known to offer all sorts of unproven and potentially dangerous treatments, including peptides, stem cell therapy, and plasma exchange therapy. We have, at this point of time, people who died from stem cells, people who had very severe toxic reactions through infusions of different peptides, said Dr. Evelyn Bischoff, the medical director of the Sheba Longevity Center in Israel. So there are risks, there are harms, she said. Then there are the subtle ways that longevity clinics stray from the science. For example, several of the experts took issue with some of the tests offered, including biological age tests, saying they aren't accurate enough to be used on an individual level. They are useful as population levels, Dr. Kirkland said, but there's tremendous inter-individual and day-to-day variation in their readouts. Other treatments, like supplements or off-label prescription drugs, are being studied in clinical trials, and there is some evidence, mostly from animals, to support their use. But many of the experts still urge caution. Longevity medicine can be kind of a bit of quackery rebranded, Dr. Schlein said. Biomarkers give a veneer of rigor, and the supplements give it revenue. And the patient gets neither longevity nor honest conversation about things. While the experts were concerned about the snake oil on offer, they were also optimistic about the future. There are nascent global efforts to legitimize longevity medicine by creating government issued licensing standards for clinics. And there are ongoing clinical trials that might one day lead to medications that can influence the root causes of aging. The field's ultimate goal. In some ways, germal medicine right now is a field without a specific medicines, but they will come, said Dr. Eric Burden, the president and chief executive of the Buck Institute and Research on Aging. But right now, he added, we may be a little bit ahead of our skis in terms of vision. Video captures enormous warehouse fire raging near Los Angeles. No one was killed or injured in the fire in Ontario, California, but a gigantic building was destroyed in an act of arson, officials said, by Emma Schartz. Under the dark sky, the smoke and flames stretching over the cavernous space looked like the inside of a volcano. But the view from a drone in the pre-dawn hours of Tuesday captured a mammoth warehouse fire about 40 miles east of Los Angeles. The blaze in Ontario, California, a six-alarm fire, consumed the 1.2 million square foot warehouse at the paper company Kimberly-Clark. 20 employees were inside the facility when the fire started at about 12:30 a.m. But no one was killed or injured, officials said. Mike Waddell, deputy chief of the Ontario Fire Department, said that the fire was identified early as a potential arson and that a suspect, a warehouse employee, was arrested and charged with arson. More than 140 firefighters from 3 counties responded, officials said. Initially, firefighters believed they were battling a small fire contained by a sprinkler system. But Chief Waddell said that within about 10 to 15 minutes, they evacuated because of the speed and scale of the flames. The building, which was filled with combustible materials, was a total loss, according to Chief Waddell. This is an extremely rare event, he said. Career firefighters would consider this a career call. Kimberly-Clark confirmed in a statement that the building was operated by a third-party partner that the company did not identify, saying that it was working with local authorities in the investigation. Chief Waddell noted that the public building was a new development in Ontario with a good water supply and fire protection sprinklers. The fire affected air quality in the surrounding areas of Riverside and San Bernardino, as the breeze and smoke created an apocalyptic scene. Vivian Wang, a daycare provider at the North Park Child Care near the warehouse, said on Tuesday afternoon that the streets and the backyards across the neighborhood remained covered in a powdery residue. Ash is everywhere, she said. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the front section of the New York Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. New owner of historic shopping plaza pitches a $1.5 billion rescue plan. The country's Club Plaza's sale and turnaround plan come at a consequential economic time for Kansas City, Missouri, which will soon lose the Chiefs football team, by Joe Gosse. More than a century ago, The Country Club Plaza, widely recognized as the first outdoor shopping center in America, opened in Kansas City, Missouri, and over the years became a popular destination for residents and tourists. Visitors travel from all over to experience the several blocks of street level retail, restaurants, and entertainment venues in buildings inspired by Seville, Spain. Tens of thousands come during the Christmas holiday season to shop and to see the 200,000 lights adorning the plaza's building. And close to 100,000 people visit in September for the annual 3-day art fair. But while Country Club Plaza's architectural charm has maintained its popularity, keeping those crowds coming has become more challenging. Like stores in many parts of the country, retailers at the plaza have for years lost ground in e commerce. About one third of the plaza's storefronts and offices are vacant, and hundreds of millions of dollars are needed to repair and replace its aging sewer and water lines, parking garages, and other infrastructure. In 2024, the plaza, roughly the size of 13 football fields at 732,000 square feet of retail, got a shot at a seemingly brighter future with a new ownership group. That includes two great granddaughters of the H.L. Hunt, the Texan oil tycoon. The group recently released its $1.5 billion plan, which includes 750 new apartments and possibly condominiums, at least 645,000 square feet of office space, and 278 hotel rooms. There are also plans for a park and expanded walkways. The sale and new plans of the Country Club Plaza come at a consequential economic time for the city. In December, one of its other tourist attractions, the Kansas City Chiefs football team, announced it would move to Kansas in 2031. The Chiefs are controlled by the Hunts. Clark Hunt, the chairman of the football club, is H.L. Hunt's grandson. The plaza is a 100-year-old development, and while it still looks good, it needs to be competitive in a region where we have suburban communities, like the poach economic activity from Kansas City, said Quentin Lucas, the mayor of Kansas City. Neighborhood groups have overall welcomed the new owners, who acquisition ended corporate control of the plaza that started in 1998. The previous owner, Tubman Centers and Maxirich, both national shopping center landlords, failed to grasp the community's strong sense of personal ownership of the district and steward it accordingly, said Kate Marshall, founder of the Plaza District Council, a nonprofit aimed at growing the plaza and its surrounding neighborhoods as a cultural and economic center. Mossy Rich did not respond to a request for comment. In November, Tobin was sold to Simon Property Group, one of the largest owners of shopping malls in the United States. Gillian Property Group, which was formed in 2025 to oversee the Hunts family commercial real estate investments, bought the plaza for $175.6 million, heavily discounted from the $660 million that Tobin and Marcirich paid in 2016. Parts of Gillian Properties' plan have received pushback from special interest in neighborhood groups, slowing the approval process, including for the use of hundreds of millions of public dollars to help pay for the redevelopment. The group has secured preliminary approval for $110 million in tax increment financing, an incentive that will use future taxes generated by the project to pay for infrastructure improvements. There is talk of an additional $100 million in tax increment funds. Gillian Property is also asking the Port Authority of Kansas City, an independent public agency, to issue up to $1.4 billion in bonds that will provide for tax exemptions to help the developer pay for the project. The Kansas City's public schools and other tax jurisdictions have opposed the request. The Kansas City Public Schools did not respond to requests for comment. Neighborhood groups are also pushing back against the proposal to build residential buildings to heights that, in some cases, are more than 2 to 3 times the current zoning limit of 45 feet. That would drastically alter the character of the mixed use property, said Matt Foucault, treasurer of the Plaza Westport Neighborhood Association. The organization's boundaries include the northern edge of the plaza. The new owners want to make some positive changes, he said, but it's important to remember that the plaza is not downtown, where you have a wall of towers. It's a suburban transitional zone. To that, Drew Steffen, chief executive of Gillian Property, said the plan was to build up, but in a way that did not create a wall of tall buildings. Resistance to the huge development project isn't unusual in any city. Tax jurisdictions like schools and libraries are typically wary about using tax revenue and diverting funds that would otherwise go to public services. It's also not unusual for residents to resist big changes to their skylines and the character of a place. But even groups that disagree with the parts of the plan want to see the plaza succeed. During its 25 years in corporate control, increased competition from suburban shopping centers, the rise of e commerce, pandemic lockdowns, and a jump in vandalism and crime in the district amid protests after George Floyd's murder were just some of the reasons the plaza saw a reversal in fortune. In 2022, Nordstrom, a coveted anchor tenant, added to the misfortune when it canceled its plan. Announced to great fanfare in 2018 to move its only store in the market to the plaza from a mall in the Kansas suburbs. In 2023, Tubman and Macerich defaulted on a $295 million loan. More recently, the insurance brokerage Lockton Company said it would move its headquarters in the plaza to Kansas in 2030. Soon after acquiring the plaza, Gillian Property beefed up security and added cameras and lighting to create a safer shopping environment. And it had some success attracting new retailers and restaurants. Among others, Love Shack Fancy recently greeted a line of customers at its door on opening day. And Veronica Beard also plans to open a storefront in the district. To strengthen the community connection, the ownership group includes around 18 investors who are Kansas City residents or have a vested interest in the area, Mr. Steffen said. Gillian Properties' other investments include Highland Park Village in Dallas, a smaller and slightly younger version of the Country Club Plaza that the Hunt Group bought and upgraded 15 years ago. Still, Mr. Steffen is well aware of the one-of-a-kind and irreplaceable nature of an asset like the plaza, he said, which is not just a shopping center, but a piece of the civic narrative and culture of Kansas City. But Mr. Steffen added, no great place in the world has remained great without investment. And to provide for investment, we need density. It can be difficult to come into a beloved place and be asked to bring it back to life, but also be told, don't touch it, don't change it, he said. $35 million or your money back. One candidate's Silicon Valley lifeline. Tech leaders see Matt Mahan, a moderate Democrat, as their best option in the California's governor race, but tensions have risen as he has struggled to gain traction in polls. By Theodore Scheffler. 2 months ago, Silicon Valley could not have been more agog about Matt Mahan, the moderate Democrat who had just entered the California's governor's race as a tech industry ally opposed to a billionaire's tax. Those billionaires saw Mr. Mahan, the mayor of San Jose, California, and a former startup executive, as something of a golden child with a solid path to the governorship. If only Silicon Valley pointed up. Mr. Mahan quickly raised millions, including contributions from Sergey Brin, the Google co founder. But he has struggled to gain traction among voters. Now, with the June primary fast approaching, Mr. Mahan's supporters have concocted a rather unusual campaign finance strategy. The pitch: help us raise $35 million by April 17th, and you'll get your money back if we fall short. The approach relies on an escrow account and is being described as an all or nothing effort, according to donor communications and pitch documents reviewed by the New York Times and confirmed by three people close to the campaign. The conditional ask may sway donors who want greater assurances that they are contributing toward a candidate with momentum. And if it fails, it could signal that Silicon Valley has lost confidence in his ability to win. The novel structure also reflects the sense of desperation around the once promising candidate. It amounts to a belief that $35 million is needed to make Mr. Mahan competitive, and that any lesser amount would not change his trajectory. The campaign is organized by David Crane, an influential California political fixer whose advocacy group, Govern for California, is popular among tech executives. Mr. Crane has told people in recent days that the group's escrow account has $13.5 million so far, with $5 million more in the pipeline. According to communications, the Times reviewed. Donors pitching it include Michael Moritz, a billionaire venture capitalist and one of Mr. Mahan's biggest supporters, and Blake Byers, a tech executive and investor. We believe this is the amount that can secure the win for Matt, and we believe this fundraise and mission critical, Noel Mosley, a supporter of Mr. Mahan, wrote of the $35 million target in an email sent Monday to potential donors. Mr. Byers and Mr. Moritz co-signed the message, which the Time reviewed. Ms. Mosley called it an all or nothing fundraise and noted the group was over halfway to the goal. Part of the appeal, according to the communications and documents, is the lack of disclosure. In California, large donations before an election must be reported within 24 hours. But Mr. Crane and his aides have told potential contributors that their donations to support Mr. Mahan would be publicly reported only if the target is hit and the money is released to the Back to Basics, a pro-Mahan outside group. If it isn't, the donations and refunds would be recorded on a report filed in July by Govern for California, but with no tie to Mr. Mahan. Jessica Levinson, an expert on California campaign finance, said it was a creative approach that could function as a cloaking device for donors. I have not heard of this type of setup before, she said. It's an ice cube until you hit a certain boiling point, and then it's water. Mr. Crane did not return requests for comment Tuesday. Despite his Silicon Valley backing, Mr. Mahan has trailed several other Democrats in polls, including Representative Eric Swalwell, former Representative Katie Porter, and Tom Steyer, a billionaire and former presidential candidate who has now donated $112 million to his own campaign. It is extremely expensive to break through as a candidate in the nation's most populous state. Tasha Dean, a Mahan campaign spokeswoman, acknowledged the mayor isn't a household name, but said he'd emerge as the campaign intensified. Silicon Valley billionaires had gravitated to Mr. Mahan's campaign in part because of his distance from the state's powerful labor unions and his moderate positions on issues like housing. He was a classmate of Mark Zuckerberg's at Harvard, and he rose in Silicon Valley alongside many of his contemporaries from the Facebook era, who amassed enormous power and wealth in the startup ecosystem. Some prominent tech leaders were quick to endorse Mr. Mahan, but his campaign has encountered turbulence, splitting with his top consultant last week. Significant tension have at times flared between Mr. Mahan's inner circle and those Silicon Valley donors in group chats and conference calls in recent weeks. According to 8 people with knowledge of the dynamic and donor presentation, the Times reviewed, some of Mr. Mahan's aides and friends have been frustrated that those donors have given much less than initially anticipated. The People said Mr. Mahan's campaign has raised about $12 million and his independent groups have together raised just under $15 million. And yet, in turn, some of Mr. Mahan's donors have felt impatient and want to see better polling before donating more money, the People said. That dynamic came to a head late last month when one when on 2 separate calls, several potential big Mahan donors voiced skepticism about his tactics and those of his outside group. The People said and pushed for a more aggressive strategy. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the front section of the New York Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Anthropic claims its new AI model, Mythos, is a cybersecurity reckoning. The company said on Tuesday that it was holding back on releasing the new technology but was working with 40 companies to explore how it would prevent cyber attacks, by Kevin Roose. Anthropic, the artificial intelligence company that recently fought the Pentagon over the use of its technology, has built a new AI model that it claims is too powerful to be released to the public. Instead, Anthropic said on Tuesday it will take a new model known as Claude Mythos Preview, available to a consortium of more than 40 technology companies, including Apple, Amazon, and Microsoft, which will use the model to find and patch security vulnerabilities in critical software programs. Anthropic said it has no plans to release its new technology more widely, but was announcing the new model's capabilities in one area in particular: identifying security vulnerabilities in software. In an effort to sound the alarm over the company believes will be a new, scarier era of AI threats. The goal is to both raise awareness and to give good actors a head start on the process of securing open source and private infrastructure and code, Jared Kaplan, Anthropic's chief science officer, said in an interview. The coalition, known as the Project Glasswing, will include some of Anthropic's competitors in AI, such as Google, as well as hardware providers like Cisco and Broadcom, and organizations that maintain critical open source software, such as the Linux Foundation. Anthropic is committing up to $100 million in Claude usage credits to the effort. Logan Graham, the head of an Anthropic team that tests new models for dangerous capabilities, called the new model the starting point for what we think will be an industry change point, or reckoning with what needs to happen now. Anthropic occupies an unusual position in today's AI landscape. It is racing to build increasingly powerful AI systems and making billions of dollars selling access to those systems, while also drawing attention to the risk its technology its technology poses. The company was deemed a supply chain risk this year by the Pentagon for demanding certain limitations to the use of its technology. A federal judge later stopped the designation from going into effect. Anthropic has not released much new information about the model, which was codenamed Capybara, during development, but after some details were inadvertently leaked last month, the company acknowledged that it considered it a step change in AI capabilities, with improved performance in areas like coding and cybersecurity research. The company's decision to hold back Claude Mythos preview while giving access only to partners out of concern for how it might be misused had some precedent. In 2019, OpenAI announced it had built a new model, GPT 2, but was not releasing the full version right away. The company claimed that its text generation capabilities could be used to automate the mass production of propaganda or misinformation. It later released the model after conducting additional safety testing on it. Many of the leaders of the GPT 2 project later left OpenAI to start Anthropic. This time, Anthropic is making a different, more urgent claim. The company's executives say Claude Mythos preview is already capable of carrying out auto- autonomous security research, including scanning for and exploiting so-called zero-day vulnerabilities in critical software programs, flaws that are unknown even to the software's developer. These efforts can often be triggered by amateurs with simple prompts. The company claims that the new model has already identified thousands of bugs and vulnerabilities in popular software programs, including every major operating system and browser. One of the vulnerabilities Claude found, the company said, was a 27-year-old bug in OpenBSD, an open source operating system that was designed to be difficult to hack. Many internet routers and secure firewalls incorporate OpenBSD's technology. Another was a long standing issue in a piece of popular video software that automated testing tools had scanned 5 million times without finding any problems. This model is good at finding vulnerabilities that would be well understood and findable by security researchers. Mr. Graham said at the same time, it has found vulnerabilities, in some cases, crafted exploits sophisticated enough that they were both missed by literally decades of security researchers, as well as all the automated tools designed to find them. Anthropic announced on Monday that its projected annual revenue had more than tripled in 2026 to more than $30 billion from $9 billion. The growth has come largely because of the popularity of Anthropic's Claude as a tool for programming. Anthropic has focused on making Claude good at completing lengthy coding tasks in hopes of making it more useful to professional programmers and amateur vibe coders. But an AI system designed to be good at coding is also good at spotting the flaws in code. running automated scan for bugs and vulnerabilities that can allow hackers to take control of users' machines, expose sensitive user information, or wreak other havoc. The cybersecurity industry has been bracing for years for what more capable AI models could do to critical tech infrastructure. Until recently, only expert human researchers with access to specialized tools were capable of finding the most severe security vulnerabilities. Now, the fear is that a powerful AI model could discover them on its own. Imagine a horde of agents methodically cataloging every weakness in your technology infrastructure constantly. Nikich Arora, the chief executive of Palo Alto Networks, wrote in a blog post last week. Mr. Graham said one of the unanswered questions about Claude Mythos Preview and other future models that will be capable of doing similar things was whether most or all of the world's critical software would need to be patched or rewritten as a result of these new models. There are a lot of really critical systems around the world, whether it's physical infrastructure or things that protect your personal data, that are running on old versions of code, Mr. Graham said. If these previously were mostly secure because it took a lot of human effort to hack them, does that paradigm of security even work anymore? It is wise to take claim about unreleased model capabilities from AI companies with a grain of salt. In this case, though, cybersecurity researchers who have been given access to Claude Mythos Preview have characterized the model as a significant cybersecurity risk. Eli Zaitasev, the chief technology officer of CrowdStrike, a cybersecurity firm with access to the new model through Project Glasswing, said in a statement accompanying Anthropic's announcement that the model demonstrates what is now possible for defenders at scale, and adversaries will inevitably look to exploit the same capabilities. What once took months now happens in minutes with AI, Mr. Zatev said. Project Glasswing takes its name from the glasswing butterfly, Mr. Kaplan said, which uses transparent wings to hide in plain sight. Similarly, he said many of today's most critical software programs contain bugs and vulnerabilities that have existed in the open for years, but were buried in such complex technical systems that no human ever found them. According to Mr. Kaplan, the cybersecurity capabilities of Claude Mythos Preview are not a result of special training. Rather, they are just one of many areas in which the model is better than previous one. He predicted that similar cybersecurity capabilities would exist in other models soon. As that happens, he said, the arms race between hackers and the companies racing to defend their systems will only escalate. As the slogan goes, this is the least capable model and will have access to in the future, he said. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the front section of the New York Times on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. NHL Playoff Update. 7 clinched, 6 close, while the Red Wings battle their own math by Sean McIndoe. Good morning to everyone except the punch their ticket truthers. I'm right and you're wrong, and I will not be discussing this further. Okay, on to the other arguably as important things. Ups and downs, pink slips. The late season firing trend continued last night with news breaking that the New Jersey Devils will part ways with GM Tom Fitzgerald. The move comes one day after the New York Islanders fired Patrick Roy, making it the second consecutive week we've had a coach firing on Sunday afternoon, followed by a GM firing on Monday night. As with Brad Treliving a week ago, the surprise here is more around the timing than the change itself. The Devils are almost certainly going to miss the playoffs for the second time in the last 3 years and the fifth time since Fitzgerald became GM in 2020. Their win loss record turned up the temperature on Fitzgerald's seat, which was already hot after his cap management led to the Devils missing out on Quinn Hughes earlier in the season. The news leads to three big questions. One, is Fitzgerald headed to Nashville? He once captained the Predators, whose current GM, Barry Trotz, has already pledged to step down. Two, will this spell the end? Will this spell the end for Sheldon Keefe? He's been behind the Devils bench for 3 years. Three, will we see even more pink slips in the coming days? Just 10 days remain in the regular season. Meanwhile, in the playoff race, we have the push for the playoff continues, and we seem to be getting some clarity around who's in. 7 teams have officially clinched. West, Colorado Avalanche, Dallas Stars, and Minnesota Wild. East, Carolina Hurricanes, Tampa Bay Lightning, Buffalo Sabres, Montreal Canadiens. 6 more teams are sitting at 95% odds or better in our projections, meaning we can pencil them in too. Welcome aboard to the Pittsburgh Penguins, Boston Bruins, Edmonton Oilers, Anaheim Ducks, Vegas Golden Knights, and Utah Mammoths. That's 13 teams, meaning we're basically got 3 spots up for grabs. The last wild card in the West, the last wild card in the East, and third place in the Metro, which gets a spot even if the team ends up finishing behind the 6th place team in the Atlantic. A scenario with zero odds of playing out. Let's get caught up on who's still in the race and how it seems to be shaken out. We'll go from the teams in the best shape to those in the worst. The Ottawa Senators have the best odds, sitting at 82% after Sunday's win over Carolina. They've got the Lightning tonight, followed by a Florida Panthers team that spanked them last week, and the Islanders, who should be in full desperation mode. But the Senators finish with the Devils and Leafs, and more importantly, they control their own destiny. Also worth noting, they'll own the regulation wins tiebreaker against anyone. The Los Angeles Kings are up to 62% after last night's shootout win over the Nashville Predators, who dropped to 15%. That puts the Kings firmly in charge of the last wildcard spot in the West, especially with the schedule that serves up Seattle, Calgary, and Vancouver twice among their final 5 games. The Philadelphia Flyers are making a late run. With 8 wins in their last 11 to move to 46% odds, we'd all but written them off a month ago. But they've been able to make up ground as a frantic race morphed into a turtle derby. Their matchup with the Detroit Red Wings on Wednesday might be the most important game of the week. The Columbus Blue Jackets have been a great story since their coaching chance, but 6 straight losses might doom them. The model says they're still at 34%, but that will plunge if they can't beat the Red Wings tonight. While they're technically ahead of Columbus in points, the New York Islanders have just 4 games left, one fewer than all the teams they're battling with, and their odds have plunged to 21%. The Patrick Roy firing may have come out of left field, but after 4 straight regulation losses, you can understand the urgency. A reminder, like the Flyers and Blue Jackets, the Islanders have 2 paths to the playoffs. They can get in by finishing third in the Metro or as a wild card. We're all rooting for the San Jose Sharks, but the model has them at just 22% after they beat the Blackhawks 3-2 last night. They've got the Oilers and the Ducks next, but then their last 4, Vancouver, Nashville, Chicago, and Winnipeg, look very winnable. If that's not motivation enough, a wild card spot pushes 19-year-old Macklin Celebrini back into the thick of the Hart Trophy race. And finally, the Detroit Red Wings. Well, the Red Wings need their own section. Meet me down below. Clipped wings. So, yeah, the Red Wings, you remember them. Good team, legendary GM, finally made the big deadline trade to bring in reinforcements in a season where they absolutely have to break their decade-long playoff drought reputation for collapsing in March. The good news is the whole can't win in March thing is no longer the story. The bad news is that's because we've now added, and look, even worse in April. Regulation losses in 6 of 8 have plunged the Wings' playoff odds to 12%, all but making both of this week's matchups with Blue Jackets and Flyers must wins. As always, when I'm confused about a team, I like to reach out to its beat writer, and Max Buttman was willing to answer my call. Normally, with these sort of things, I come prepared with 4 or 5 questions, but this time for the Red Wings, I had only 2. What's going wrong and what's happening if they can't fix it? Hours before news of ceasefire, Pope Leo issues strong rebuke of Trump. The first U.S. born pontiff has consistently called for dialogue to resolve the war in the Middle East. He referred to Trump's Iran threats as truly unacceptable. By Ifrit Levine. Pope Leo XIV, the first U.S. born pontiff, issued a rare rebuke of President Trump on Tuesday, saying it was truly unacceptable to threaten to wipe out Iran's whole civilization. He did not mention the president by name, but it was clear whom he was referring to. Today, as well, no, there has been this threat against the entire people of Iran. And this is truly unacceptable, the Pope told reporters Tuesday evening in Italy, hours before an announcement by Mr. Trump that a 2-week ceasefire had been reached. There are certainly issues of international law here, but even more, it is a moral question concerning the good of the people as a whole in its entirety. Mr. Trump had earlier threatened to destroy every bridge and power plant in Iran if Tehran did not allow commercial ships to pass safely through the Strait of Hormuz. The deliberate destruction of civilian infrastructure is forbidden under international law. Mr. Trump's threat drew widespread condemnation from Democratic and Republican lawmakers, as well as United Nations officials and others around the world. In his first year as pontiff, Leo has largely avoided wading directly into U.S. politics, but he has consistently called for an end to the U.S. Israeli attacks on Iran and a return to dialogue to resolve the conflict. He has also pointedly rejected efforts by some in the Trump administration to frame the war in Christian terms. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth in March called on Americans to pray for victory in battle and the safety of their troops in the name of Jesus Christ. The Pope soon after warned against invoking the name of Jesus for battle, saying that Jesus does not listen to the prayers of those who wage war but rejects them. In a homily during a Mass before Easter last week, Leo said that the Christian mission had been distorted by a desire for domination entirely foreign to the way of Jesus Christ. Then, on Easter Sunday, he renewed his call for peace. On this day of celebration, let us abandon every desire for conflict, domination, and power, and implore the Lord to grant his peace to a world ravaged by war. Leo told tens of thousands of faithful gathered in St. Peter's Square. Mr. Trump has imposed on a Tuesday evening deadline for Iran to open the Strait of Hormuz or face devastation. Leo pressed for diplomacy. Come back to the table. Let's talk, Leo said Tuesday evening. Let's look for solutions in a peaceful way. Hours later, shortly before his 8 p.m. deadline, Mr. Trump made the announcement that the ceasefire agreement. In a post on social media, Mr. Trump also claimed to be very far along with the definitive agreement concerning long-term peace with Iran and peace in the Middle East. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the April 7th issue of the front section of the New York Times. We read from the front section of the New York Times every Sunday at 1 p.m. Your reader has been Nia Holmes. Thank you for listening.